So, Rish, tell me briefly.
Yeah.
Some people might not know the story, but tell me briefly how Blippar came to be.
Sure. I mean, me and my co-founder Omar, we were very close friends from a long time. We were hanging out in a pub in Cobham in Surrey. Omar doesn't drink. I was drinking. The last round on the tab was £15, and I was closing it. I put a £20 banknote forward and said, imagine if the Queen came to life out of the banknote and said, can I have my £5 back? It was a really stupid joke.
Yeah.
Omar somehow remembered it, and his background is in computer vision,
right,
from Imperial College London. A few weeks later, he came back to me and said that, hey, remember you said that? I said, no. But anyway, check this out. And when you blipped the £20 banknote, the Queen's face was perfectly superimposed with mine. And it became a party trick.
Right.
And then a few months later, literally I had a eureka moment where I realized a banknote is just an image, and everything we see around the world with our eyes is an image, and we should build a platform.
So you went back to your partner and asked
Yeah. I mean, we went back and we spoke to Omar and said, hey, let's do this. And the business was registered, and we continued working on the idea. And then I went out to two more friends of mine who are co-founders of Blippar, that is Jessica Butcher and Steve Spencer. And we brought them on board and we launched the company.
So when you launched it, what was your initial proposition, and what was the response of the brands that you went to?
So the thought process was very clear at our end, having experience of running businesses before that. This could very easily become a gimmicky one-off thing and die. I mean, a couple of good TechCrunch and Next Web stories, and that's the end of it. And we didn't want that. We never wanted to shout out ourselves that, hey, check this tech out. I kept a very low profile. The conscious decision was to go up the pyramid straight. And it's hard work to go up the pyramid. But the advantage of going up the pyramid is coming down, gravity takes over. So we went to 107 brands trying to convince them that, hey, this is a new idea. And at that point, the reception was phenomenal. Like 3.5, 4 years ago, I mean, anyone who saw AR and a good quality AR like us, I mean, they were like completely blown away by it. But just didn't trust the system. That a totally unknown company, 5 people in the business. But 6 businesses took a bet on us out of 107 companies we approached. And they were like Cadbury's and Heinz and Microsoft Xbox, Samsung, Nike, to name a few.
Right, so just the smaller brands.
Yeah. So when we were approaching only brands of such stature, and today probably almost 100 of those 107 brands work with us.
And so back in those days, there was this sudden explosion of AR activity. There was, in the UK, there were Marasma and others, and then of course there was kind of more location-based AR, like from Loreal and others on the continent. So was that kind of coincidence, or were you copying each other? Or?
I know it's not. I mean, it's a beautiful way to look at it is actually go forensic on it. If you go on the App Store and check because you have the time print of when these apps go live. We came out before Erasma, and Zapper came out maybe 2 weeks. But in a beautiful part is within a span of 6 months, like 3 very well-established AR companies were born. But we were the only one with a clear business proposition and with a very clear vision. And sort of, though the competition was intense to start with, we were able to move ahead and move far away because of the clarity. And one of those key clarity positions was, let's build a platform, a single lens, a default lens which will give the opportunity for users to interact with anything on the world and they get digital content. And we didn't compromise on the white label solution, even though huge amount of revenue opportunities were there to be taken. And great stuff with Erasmus because they were backed by Autonomy and eventually HP. They were doing a huge amount of PR because they had the finance power, but all the good results of that was coming to us.
So when I mean, just take you back a little bit. You talked about the pressure to white label your solution. You resisted that. Was that easy for you?
No, it was proud. It now looks extremely easy and one of the best decisions we've taken as a business, but it wasn't easy at all. I mean, it's very, very. I mean, we even get that question today, but that argument is much easier to handle today. But then, when you had like 5,000 users on your month one and like 10,000 month two, even after launch, talking to people and convincing them that we will become the default platform it sounded like all talk and very difficult to quantify or qualify what we were saying. But it was literally a stance you had to take.
Yeah.
The only thing we had in our favor that we had a brilliant team which was able to very creatively explain the value proposition, and the capability of the platform was quite superior, and it could do a lot more than all our competitors. You know, it was most of the AR in the early days was about videos and print, and then we were like doing advanced gaming and things like that. Literally, our first campaign was a Cadbury's chocolate game of a pack, and people had never seen a 3D game on a chocolate wrapper before. So using those as a differentiator and sort of trying to educate the market that we'll work with the few, but we'll work in the right direction was a bet we took. But it gave us the experience to work with large brands. There are certain type of people, and unless you're not used to it, you will not feel comfortable. And it gave my team the confidence as well, because we were pretty much working with the biggest players in the industry in terms of FMCG brands or electronics brands, and I think that definitely sort of paved the path for us. And with every passing month, it gave us confidence that we're on the right track.
There must be so many barriers at the beginning. I mean, there are still barriers, but I mean, in terms of you've got the sort of number of handsets out there, and whether the handsets are capable in the different cameras, and you've got the sheer and the sheer problem of telling consumers what the hell it is.
I mean, it was iPhone 3G, 3GS generation when we started the company, and capabilities were very limited.
And Android had just launched.
2.1. And though the whole app economy side of things were booming, people were very skeptical. And you have to realize we are striving in a world where reach is spoken about a lot, and I'm beginning to say that reach is exaggerated.
Right.
It's not really that important, at least for brands. I mean, depth is a lot more important than reach. If you have an audience of 100 million people in a platform, brands get very excited.
Yeah.
But I always tell them that how many of those people are really interacting with your brands, and for us, they're making them realize that the power is in your hands. Your product is your media. And billions of them are in circulation, every day. And they're much more powerful than newspapers and TV ads all of combined. Why don't you make them into interactive channels? And that is your reach. And imagine if 1% of all your products was interacted with by Blippar users. That is a much better reach than 20 people in Twitter retweeting your tweets. And this sort of unique thinking, it took time to seed in, and we explained the concept of depth of engagement, and brands started to understand it, and the data supported it.
And I mean, you talked about this before, this idea of your product being your new kind of billboard, and it's a very compelling idea.
Yeah.
What's the reaction from marketers when you talk to them about it? Are they kind of excited by it, or are some of them a bit fearful of
No, I don't think fearful is at all. I mean, I would say the world of brands have been very welcoming, and that's the reason of our success story so far. I mean, we work with over 2,000 leading brands worldwide. It's more about they being convinced that this is not a phase or not being a pilot approach, but go after the always on.
Yeah.
Because users are blipping more than ever before. And the true value you would get if you keep it, just don't treat it as a seasonal thing, but keep it on all the time. And some brands are waking up to that phenomena. And of course, the second value proposition is data. I mean, brands are heavily reliant on retailers to do their job, and most brands have no clue what happens to their products after it leaves the factories.
Yeah.
And today they get that information from us, and they even get insight on the digital activities, because when you launch a game, or you have a YouTube channel, or you have Instagram page, or you have coupons, you can almost aggregate all that information straight onto your product using Blippar's augmented reality, and then measure which part of the functionalities people are using more, and then get that real-time insight. But it wasn't alone about that. We were also saying that we are actually justifying your ROI on your traditional media spend. I mean, everything you put on newspapers and TV, it is no additional effort to make it Blippar interactive and get some data about what do people do in newspapers. Do they even care? Because you are spending a lot of money on them every day.
Could you give me an example of kind of a brand that's got real insight into what happens?
Sure. I mean, there are several examples. I'm going to have to be careful what insight I share here. I can give you some numbers just to give you tentatively what level of traction some of these brands have got. I mean, Pepsi is a good one. During the months of World Cup, or just before that and up to after that, they did a campaign with Blippar. The Blippar logo went on 250 million cans, and Pepsi out of that campaign had 55,000 hours of pulled engagement. And that level, I mean, this is not broadcast medium.
Yeah.
This is users deciding to pull your content out of product, and the conversion was phenomenal. And if you were to do a media buy to get that much engagement, you're looking to spend like $6 to $10 million.
Right.
So it just shows the value proposition of Blippar. That first of all, it's very rewarding, because no one's forcing you. There's no trickery. There's no like, hey, I went to check out something else and I clicked on something else. No, it's a very 100% pure organic behavior when someone is blipping something. And secondly, they learn that, whether the games were popular or the music videos were popular, or they had some avenues of content, and they have a lot of insight. But a more interesting case study I really like is the one which Loreal did in Vogue magazine a year ago, where they were going to put QR codes on Vogue, and when they came to know about Blippar, we thought of doing the idea where you don't go to another website to try on nail varnish. Mm-hmm. They had a micro website. He said you actually try on nail varnish straight on your hands using augmented reality.
Right.
So they were launching this 40 shades of nail varnish, not 50 but 40. Yeah. And on success of that campaign, just out of one magazine, on page 79, they got more than 125,000 interactions. No, page 79 is like absolutely hidden in Vogue. It's not like on the cover.
Yeah.
They got 125,000 interactions. The fascinating thing was, 10% of women tried all the 40 shades. And around 15% tried 18, and then 20, and the insight they got that which were the colors which were actually popular among people, and they actually manufactured those shades accordingly. And there's an element of yield, because you get very limited real estate in retailers. You don't put all the 40. So they manufactured those colors. In fact, in that quarter, they had a 15% rise in their sales, because they had so much insight of which one to manufacture more.
So how do you monetize what you do? Do you charge for building the campaigns, or?
It's a bit of both. There's a SaaS element to it, where we charge a flat fee on the platform access and service. and then there is a slightly creative agency-style pricing to it when brands want us to do the work.
Right.
Irrespectively, we do a lot of consultancy, which is included in the platform. But today around 250 people work in Blippar, but indirectly more than 2,000 people work in Blippar because all the world's leading agencies and media owners are empowered and they know the Blippar way of doing things, and we want them to get business. Instead of like building websites, start building blips. That's the new thing which we're driving. We have all the systems in place. So still some brands want us to do it. We charge a premium for it. Otherwise, most of the revenue is from platform services.
So I'm assuming that long term you want to be a SaaS business.
We already are.
Yeah.
But it's very open. Like when you're talking about the top 10 advertisers in the world, which are our clients too, you have to look after them.
Sure.
I mean, I come across Google's entire team and Facebook's entire team in the same meetings where we go to, and they look after these brands. I mean, they're all self-service platforms, but the biggest clients don't do self-service. They want your team to look after them because that's what they're paying for.
So for all the progress you've made so far, and all of the fantastic case studies like the Loreal one you mentioned, I think you'd agree that Blippar is still not really a mainstream thing in the way that Twitter is, or whatever. So how far do you think, how long do you think it will be before blipping becomes the same as tweeting? Or
it's a matter of density of usage. So right now it's a bit of a scarcity because people cannot use Blippar at this point without a blippable promoted object, and there's an element of scarcity there, and we are working on something which will allow them to do that, and where the platform will not rely on brand partnerships alone. Today the business is completely reliant on brand and media owner partnerships to deliver content, and we're coming up with something very soon where we will be allowing people to blip a lot more things than pretty much what's out there. And it's almost a form of a visual search. And that's the direction we are heading towards. And I really believe that that's the future. I mean, words-based search, of course, would exist, but it doesn't solve all problems because what I always say is that words aren't our biggest strength. If you look at the funnel, our imagination as a species is much bigger than what comes out of our mouth.
So, presumably, visual-based search of where you don't require some kind of encoded blip, or that must be technically incredibly difficult to solve.
It is. I mean, it's a deep learning system, and our systems are deep learning. We've been analyzing data for quite some time. It'll take years to recognize everything, but we have to start with categories where people's natural interests are. What's the point of making cats and dogs blippable if no one's blipping that?
Sure.
So in this process, in the last 3.5 years, we figured out quite a high amount of natural interests people have, and we want to convert those things and those categories into experience and continuously expand. But we are onto something this year. Very exciting. You have to watch the space.
We will.
We are about to solve this problem in a very unique way.
We'll look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Thanks for spending time to talk to us today.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.